Hey there and welcome, my name is Pete and this is another channel update for the month of November 2018. As usual, we start things off with a look back at October before we talk about the road ahead. And as you may have noticed, October was a bit slow for the channel, especially during the second half of the month. Now, the good news first, despite a somewhat reduced output, the channel once again grew extremely well and we wrapped up the month with 44,000 subscribers. Over the weekend we just passed 45,000 and if that pace continues we should be at 50,000 well before the end of the year. At this point I also want to say thank you and welcome to all new subscribers. I hope you stick around for a long time. Still, I think I owe you a bit of an explanation as to why October was that slow. There are two reasons for it and one of them actually has to do with the channel itself, but let's talk about the other one first. As some of you might know, I'm working as an academic scholar and researcher in the field of communications and media. And despite the fact that I have actually been able to slightly cut down working hours thanks to your support, October is historically a very stressful month in this occupation. Not only does it mark the start of a new semester for our students, but it also includes every single deadline for all of the major conferences in my field. So I have spent much of my time writing papers and preparing submissions, which unfortunately left me with little time to record new videos. Thankfully though, I was able to submit everything on time, and with those big to-dos out of the way, I will once again be able to spend more time on the channel. Speaking of which, the second reason is one that actually makes me very happy, because in October I officially registered Pete Complete as a business. Now, this does not mean that YouTube is now my full-time job. In fact, it doesn't really change anything about my approach to YouTube. It is simply a step that was becoming more and more necessary. At the end of the day, I do make a small amount of money with this channel and the Pete Complete Patreon, and that required me to declare it as a form of additional income. Now, I live in Germany, a country that is famous for its bureaucracy, and let me tell you, our authorities take this stuff seriously. Before I even could register the channel as a business, I first had to talk to my supervisor at work, who then had to write a short statement declaring that there is no conflict of interest between my work at the university and my work on this channel. With that statement, I then had to approach HR, who had me fill out a form where I had to describe exactly what I was doing on the channel. And they were somewhat understandably a bit picky about that, because technically I am sort of a public servant in my role with the university, so I had to assure them that what I do on this channel has absolutely nothing to do with my day-to-day work. That was not enough, however, because up next I had to sit down with my landlord. My rental agreement specifically states that the apartment I live in cannot be used for commercial purposes, and from what I understand that is pretty common here in Germany, but of course, since I do all my work for this channel from home, that is more or less exactly what I'm using it for, at least partially. Now, luckily, I have a fantastic relationship with my landlord and they were fully supportive of me, so now I finally had everyone's permission and could start the actual process of registering my little business. And by the way, it still feels kind of strange calling it that. Now, surprisingly, this last part was actually super easy. All I had to do was to walk over to our local, well, I suppose the best translation would be Department of Commerce and Trade. I briefly told them what I was doing, had to pay a small fee, and they completed the registration in just a few minutes. And with that, I am now officially a self-employed business owner, and I have to admit, I am pretty damn proud of that. Once again though, this will in all likelihood not change anything about how I run this channel. This move simply covers me from a legal and tax perspective, but unfortunately it does not magically create more time to spend making videos. But, and I have said this before, with your support I was already able to cut down working hours by a tiny amount, and who knows, maybe I will be able to do so again in the not-so-distant future. And while we're on the topic of the future, let's have a look at what's to come in November. The NBA 2K18 series officially reached its conclusion last month, and this now opens up room for something new. However, I have made the admittedly tough decision to not start a 2K19 series. In one of my previous channel update videos, I have already talked at length about my concerns with the game, specifically with the company behind it and its business practices, and while my league mode is largely unaffected by the main points of criticism, that mode is still part of a larger game, a game that I feel embodies a whole lot of what's wrong with the gaming industry today. Apart from that, when it comes to my League or my GM mode, I have also kind of hit a creative roadblock, so to speak. While there are of course many teams to choose from in those game modes, the overall approach in such a new series would not differ all too much from what you saw over the course of the last year with 2K18. Sure, it would be a different team with different players, but in the grand scheme of things, the series would more or less follow the same path as the previous one. We would take a struggling or a brand new franchise, acquire several young assets via trade, draft or free agency, and slowly build our way towards a championship. And while I thoroughly enjoyed that process in 2K18, I hope you can also understand that I don't really see much appeal in doing it all over again, only with a different team. However, this does not mean that the 2K franchise or sports games in general will never make an appearance on this channel again. On the contrary, I am still very much following the genre, and as a huge sports fan myself, it would be almost impossible for me not to. So consider this more of a break in the action than a complete stop. I can more or less promise you sports games will make a return to the channel sooner rather than later. Regarding the road ahead, my first priority is now to bring our 2 ongoing series back up to full speed. In Mass Effect, the main plotline needs to be continued, and the next episode should therefore likely be another long one. And with RimWorld, the upload frequency has suffered a bit over the last few weeks, and I would like to get back to my usual schedule of at least 1 episode per week. Still, I am moderately confident that I will soon be able to bring another series to this channel, preferably something brand new. I have a few ideas on my list already, but of course this is where I'm very interested to hear your ideas. So let me know in the comments below, what would you like to see? I have already been brainstorming possible formats for an XCOM series. Maybe we could also dive into a game like Assassin's Creed. Some of the newer games like Frostpunk for example also look extremely intriguing, and that is of course only a tiny tip of the iceberg of what we could play. So feel absolutely free to fire away with your ideas. I would be really interested to hear what you have in mind. With that being said, I think the road for November is laid out. Please don't expect a new series right away. It might take me a while to get the format just right. As you know, I am a bit of a perfectionist. For this month's channel update video, I would say that's about it. If you have any questions, of course, feel free to leave them in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, then I would of course be happy if you could leave a thumbs up. And if you want to support the channel further, then you can either subscribe if you haven't already, or you can also support the Pete Complete Patreon. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.